Hi everyone, this is Soviet Bear. The New Year holidays are almost over, and at least in Russia they are almost over. And right now I'm going to make a video, a look back for 2014, the key events that have defined it this year. So what can I say? This year was very rich for political drama. Let's start with the Ukraine crisis. At the end of 2013, an anti-government protests broke out in Kiev. The protesters were against Viktor Yanukovych, the former president of Ukraine, and his refusal to sign the association agreement with the European Union. Yes, he realized when he finally realized how bad it is, and this agreement was absolutely bad for Ukraine, good for the EU, and bad for the Ukraine because in that case Ukraine would open all of its markets for the European goods, and Ukrainian industry simply cannot compete with the European. However, the protesters didn't realize that none of them actually have read the text of the agreement. So these protests, backed by the West, were backed by the West. It explains, it probably explains why the U.S. Spokesperson, U.S. State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland visited Maidan with cookies and gave cookies to the protesters. Eventually, they led to a coup d'etat, the right sector, the neo-Nazi coup d'etat in Kiev, and Yanukovych was overthrown and he fled Ukraine. The people of Southeast, the people of Donetsk and Lugansk oblasts, they refused to obey. They started the protests against the neo-Nazi junta which took over Kiev. So Kiev ordered military force to suppress these protests in Donetsk and Lugansk. In return, these republics declared independence from Kiev, and the civil war broke out in Ukraine. What can I say about the Ukrainian army? They didn't make any success in suppressing this rebellion against the Kiev junta. I never denied that yes, Russia supported these rebels in Donbass, and the same way the same way USA supported the opposition in Syria. Well, anyway, on September 5th and September 19th, the Minsk Accords were signed. The truce was signed in Minsk with participation of representatives of the Kiev government, of Russia, of the EU, and of Donetsk and Lugansk People Republics. This treaty was signed, but both sides, Kiev and Donetsk and Lugansk republics, accused each other of violating the ceasefire regime. After the neo-Nazi coup in Kiev, Crimea, on March 16th of 2014, conducted a referendum of independence, and and an absolute majority, 95 or 96% voted of Crimeans voted to join Russia. This angered a lot, this referendum and this Russian Crimean reunification, it angered a lot of Western countries, including USA, the European Union, and their allies. Russia has been accused of aggression. This referendum was immediately proclaimed as labeled as illegitimate, a forced referendum, a referendum on gunpoint, in gunpoint. So the West, known for its democratic rhetoric for centuries, now says this referendum democratic vote was not legitimate and deliberately calls Russian-Ukraine reunion as annexation. That's just ridiculous. Also, after the Russian Crimean reunification, the West imposed sanctions first against some of Russian and Crimean officials, and then these sanctions were imposed also on entire sectors of Russian economy. Also, as a part, in fact, the West, the EU, and the USA, they are waging a full-scale economic and information war on Russia. Also, as a repercussion of the Crimean referendum, it created a global trend of referendums, independence referendums, such as in Europe. On March 2014, the Veneto region of Italy voted for independence. 89% of Veneto Italians voted for independence. Also, on September 18th, Scotland also conducted a referendum for independence, but those who voted yes, the yes voters, they lost the referendum, so Scotland remains a part of the United Kingdom. Also, November 9th, the Catalonia also conducted a referendum for independence, but Spain did not recognize the legitimacy of this referendum and declared it unconstitutional. Well, speaking of the vote in Europe, on May 25th, over 500 million voters, European voters, participated in the Europarlament elections, and Eurosceptic parties, who are often described as xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and sometimes even neo-Nazi, have gained momentum. Yes. Well, the weakening EU economy and austerity measures, they led European voters to give their ballots to the Eurosceptic parties, such as Jobbik in Hungary, National Democratic Party in Germany, Lega Nord in Italy, Front National in France, and UKIP in the United Kingdom. Yes, but let's go overseas and see what's going on in America, in the United States. The Republican Party, have gained 54 of 100 seats in the US Senate. Now the entire legislative branch is secured in the hands of the Republicans. This indicates that the ordinary American peoples are disenchanted and disappointed with Obama's handling of a wide array of domestic and foreign policy issues. What does this mean for Russia? I don't know yet. Only time will tell. Now let's get to the Middle East issues. This year, a new threat from Middle East has risen. The so-called Islamic State, or as it was called before, Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, the ISIL. This group has origins back in the Second Iraq War, 2004. The US, during the Syrian conflict, the Syrian crisis, the US provided and still provides support, weapons, logistical support to whom they view as moderate rebels. Now, in September of 2014, they formed a coalition of 60 countries and organizations against this Islamic State threat. They conducted and they still conduct airstrikes. The US forces conducting airstrikes against the Islamic State on Iraq and Syrian territory. In summer 2014, the Islamic State declared a caliphate on its controlled territories. There are a lot of they committed a lot of well-documented atrocities and human rights violations, including crucifixion and mass beheadings. Well, it's pointless to say that Russia pointed out a lot of times the US and Western double standards. Some terrorist groups, the US and the West condemning one terrorist group but secretly supporting another. So, in July of 2014, in response to alleged murder of 3 Israeli schoolboys, Israel launched a military operation against Hamas in Gaza Strip. After the 50-day war, and the Palestinian side lost over 2,000 men and Israel lost 72 men, and the peace talks were set in Egypt. Also, this year, the Palestinians gained great opportunity to be recognized as an independent state in the UN Security Council. But the United States vetoed this resolution because, as they say, the United States say this violates the Israeli interests. Well, I hope one day Palestine will achieve its goals and it will get freedom and return all the territories lost after the 6-day war. So, to the pipelines and hydrocarbons. In December 2014, our president announced that Russia, we are canceling the South Stream pipeline project. Vladimir Putin explained that European Commission insisted that this pipeline violates the EU third energy package. This third energy package is a very interesting document, and I assume it was created for the purpose of not letting Russia to leverage the EU with the hydrocarbon supplies. So we began to research for another options, and we found them. Yes, we will build our new pipeline in Turkey. Turkey has agreed. This new pipeline will have annual capacity of 63 billion tons. Yes. Also, the OPEC, they absolutely refuse to increase their crude oil output. Well, this can be easily explained. The US and Saudi Arabia want to punish Iran to influence our economy and Venezuela. This was clear anti-Russian. In fact, Saudi Arabia, it turns out they have reserves. They can survive a couple of years of low oil prices. Can say the same about the US shale gas and oil industry, but time will tell. Also, I also have to say something about BRICS New Development Bank. This bank will help our BRICS countries greatly. It is a good alternative to the IMF and to the World Bank, the Western dominated, the bankster dominated. These new BRICS banks will allow countries to borrow money for key infrastructure projects such as new roads, telecommunications, ports, and other infrastructure projects. Also worth mentioning the Mistral saga, when didn't France just refused to hand over the amphibious assault ships we actually pay for. Come on, France, this is not comme il faut. Well, I think I have to stop here. I just want to say in conclusion that this year was rough. Um, I don't know, but I think 2015 predicts even greater challenges for us. But we will survive and we will win. That is all, guys. Bye. All Russian supporters, keep on fighting. Stay strong. Bye.